what time it is. Yes, you do. It's Saturday, 11 a.m. It's Renovation Nation time. Yes. Another Saturday. I mean, I did see the sun one day this week, I think it was. Maybe it might have been a flashlight. I hope everybody's having a great Saturday. You're listening to Renovation Nation, coming at you from Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chad Rowland, host of this crazy show. Talking about a lot of stuff today. Going to talk about a lot of stuff today. Yeah. Last week, fascia. Think you got a little bit on fascia. Know what fascia is now? If you don't, you can go to our YouTube channel or actually just go to our website, www.rtmroofing.com. And you'll see the videos there. You can click on them, then you can click the bottom. It'll say a standard conversation. Click the main headliner. And I got a little moth in here. Get away from me. That click the headliner and take you to, and you can watch this show, last week's show. You can watch last week's show and catch up on fascia. We did a lot of talk about that, and I think I broke back out in some insulation, and I can't remember what all I talked about last week. It's hard to remember what I did yesterday or even this morning compared to what I did a week ago, but I do remember fascia. That I do remember. What else we got? Well, it's sort of the theme today is water. I mean, Tuesday, you might as well have been a duck. That's the frog killing rains I talk about. That is a frog killing rain. I'll always say, you'll know our labor warranty. We do a 5-year labor warranty on our work when we do replacements. Why don't I do a 10, 20, and 30? Well, it's very simple. Give me a couple rains like that during a year or once a year. Give me 4 seasons. And if you've not had a problem or don't see any water or, and you haven't noticed any leaks and it's all still looking like it's supposed to, the odds of it being labor in year 5 go way, way down. They're not zero. Nothing's ever zero. Nothing, well, some things are 100. But let me get this out right, because I don't want to mix it up. The frog killing rains that came like they came the other night, they show problems even on good buildings, good roofs, good gutters, good fascia, good everything out there. That's like a hailstorm, a windstorm. That's a rainstorm. I mean, that's not a normal rain that came down the other night. That happens, 2 or 3, 4, 5 times a year. We get some downpours, but that was pretty brutal, especially in certain areas. Now, some of you didn't get anything. But up north a little bit, I know up in the Hendersonville area in North Nashville, and I want to say over towards Brentwood, but I can't remember where all I've been this week. But at the same point in time, they got it. Just, I don't know. I was talking last week about a flat roof where I saw a video and then we ended up fixing it, that all the water just came dumping in. It looked like you brought a dump truck back and just lifted it up and dumped the water in. That's how it came down the other night. I don't think an umbrella would have protected you. But I wanted to get into today a little bit about the roof. Now, I'm not going to just talk, and you got to put a nail here and all that. I want to get into the roof's value. And I don't mean its monetary value. It's like fingerprints. Everybody's got their own price out there on their roof. Not every roof is the same. Yeah, they're very similar, but they're not all the same size and same material, same amount of materials, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the roof does have a value. And I don't believe a lot of people, as I didn't for a long time, understand what that value was. Because it gives you a different perspective. If you're only looking at the value of the cost, which is an important value, really is, but it's not its only value. Because one can override the other until it can't. And what do I mean by that? I mean, yeah, I don't want to spend $20,000 on a roof, $30,000 on a roof, $15,000 on a roof. I didn't want to spend the money on this house, but we spent it or are spending it. But my point is that there is a number in my head I don't like. I don't want to do that much. But what is the value I'm getting for it? And what is its true value? And sometimes that number, the cost is higher and you can lower it. Like, okay, I understand the value, but I'm going to knock down A, B, and C. But other times it reverses and you see You don't add more money technically to the cost of the roof, but you see why it is that much because it gives a different perspective. Most people, as I say most people, me growing up, never thought about a roof. It was always over my head, but never thought about it. Didn't understand other than, hey, I'm not getting rained on. I'm warm, I'm hot, I'm cold, I feel good. I'm not freezing, and all that good stuff. All my stuff's the same. I understood that's a given, so to speak, but it's not really when you're having to deal with your roof and now having to come out of pocket because the insurance didn't buy it or it wasn't damaged. You've not had any storms. What is this value? Where are we at? Your roof protects everything you've worked for in your life up until this point, except what you've lost, like me. I used to have some other stuff that I'll go looking for, and it's gone. I don't know where it went. It's like the left socks in the dryer. I don't know where they go. But yet they go somewhere. Well, everything I've accumulated up to this point in my life is under a roof, except for a couple things outside. And, they only last out there so long because they don't have a roof over them. And, I always say it does protect, everything under the roof. Of course it does. Protects your family. Yes, it does. Hey, I'm a bachelor. Okay. If that's the case, well, it's protecting you. So what's the value of that? That has a value. Might not have a number, but there's a value to it. You want to keep water out of your crawl space. How do you do that? Well, you got to have a good foundation to start with and however it's built, but you don't want it coming through the ceiling, down your walls, and getting into your crawl space. The roof has a value for that. It also, when properly installed, protects your fascia boards, your eaves, your soffits, some of your siding, except when the wind blows. But the roof line, on most homes extends a foot and a half, depending on how they built it. But at least a foot to 16, 18 inches is a soffit. Now, I've talked about soffit in the past, but not went deep dive down in it. I'm not going to start it today, but the simple thing of what your soffit is, well, we talked about fascia last week. It's that vertical board that your gutter nails to, or goes up and down the A-frame look, the gable ends. It's that wood. It's painted or got metal on it. That's your fascia. Well, that's vertical. Well, if you go horizontal underneath it, that's your soffit. The roof protects that. Some will say it helps prevent the M word and mildew. I never say the M word. M. Yeah, I can't tell you the word, but its initials are MOLD. But that's all by, to me, sometimes. It does protect some of that. Yes, your roof does keeps some the M and mildew off your home. But you can still get it. It can help reduce soil erosion, but that's more gutters, soil erosion. Because if you don't have gutters, well, let me put it this way: keep soil erosion from out of your crawl space because you're not eroding it with the water coming through your roof. I'll go with that. What else? I mean, I can go on and on. It protects the structure. It protects the bones of the building. Why are some of these 1900 homes still there? Because they had their roof replaced. Now, they've probably been rebuilt. When I say 1900s, I'm talking about the early ones, not the 80s and 90s, but those too. In 1972, that's 54 years ago, there was homes built. They're still here. And still got that same piece of lumber, and a lot of it in a lot of areas, that's the same and as dry as it was day one when they put it in there. That's because of your roof. It helps keep water off your insulation. Now, your insulation is a good little barrier. It will sometimes, or not sometimes, but sometimes I guess it is sometimes, but when your roof leaks and you don't always know it, it's because it's dripping in and landing on top of your insulation. Well, it takes a while, unless there's a lot of water, it'll compress down over time. It'll soak up like a sponge. And then eventually it will leak into your sheetrock, and then you'll see that brown stain, or it'll drip out of a can light or some other light. Any hole in your sheetrock, it's like a hole in your roof. If water gets there, it's going to find the lowest spot. And if it doesn't find the lowest spot, it falls through a can, then it just sits there and soaks right into your sheetrock. And then now you start seeing spots. And if it's a lot of water, I've seen it bulge it and bust through it and drip through it and all that. Your roof protects that. That's the value. It also, one of the big ones I like is it protects the value of your overall property. That land is one price. That land with that home on it or building on it is another price. You take the roof off that building, it's no longer a building. It's just a bunch of junk sitting on your land that now devalues your property, or what would be the word? It de-somethinged it. It lowered it. Your land's still going to be worth what it's worth, but that structure brings no more value without a roof on it. Yeah, things like that. Now, if you see the value of that and you want to get your roof inspected, especially after that last rain, now's the time. 615-500-0751, 500-0751, or go to rtmroofing.com for all your roofing, siding, soffit, fascia, gutters, chimney caps, skylights. Home attic insulation needs. That's us. It's RTM Roofing. Well, it's a Saturday. We made it through one. Now it's time for two. You're listening to Renovation Nation. See you in 3. Hey, this is Chad with RTM Roofing and host of Renovation Nation. RTM Roofing's commercial division is looking for you. Are you a property manager? Do you own the building? Are you the business owner? You tired of leaks? You tired of chasing leaks? Call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751 or go to rtmroofing.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, fill out the contact card, and let us help you out. And you know what time it is, and you know you're back. Back live on Super Talk 99.7. It's Renovation Nation. Bum, 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 bum. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. I tell you, I don't even know what to talk about anymore. This world's done turned crazy. Things are expensive, but life's good. Still here, still talking. They ain't killed us yet. I always say we're going to make it. As long as they don't kill us, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. But anyhow, thanks for joining today. I'm Chad Rowland, host of this crazy show called Renovation Nation, coming at you from Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And we're talking, water. Yeah, from all the water we had earlier this week and continue to have, and over the last few weeks. Started off this year a little dry. It made up for that. It's been a foggy July. And I found out a little wives' tale the other day, or I don't know if it was wives' tale or folk tale, or I don't know, but it's for every fog in July is a snow this winter. Well, if that's the case, everybody go ahead and start ordering your sleds now. Because we've had out here, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 or 5 fogs. I mean, it was 3 in a row this week, 4 in a row. I don't know about this morning. I wasn't paying much attention. I didn't get up as early. But the point being is, if that's true, we're going to count that down and see what we got. See if it's a valid deal there or not. But anyway, roof value, water, and what's the value of your roof? Not the price. Not the price. I'm not going to talk that today. Give that to you once you call us at 615-500-0751, 500-0751. We'll give that to you should you need one. If not, we'll give you a repair estimate should you need one. If not, give you a gutter estimate should you need one. Siding, soffit, fascia, gutters, chimney caps, or attic insulation. And a lot of you have been calling about attic insulation. I'm going to jump back to roof value, but I do have to do a caveat for a second, as my known squirreling does, that attic insulation, it's important. And everybody I've been to has needed a little something. Some's needed a whole makeover, if you will. Others, which a gentleman we're getting ready to do here either next week or week after, is needing a top off. Well, he's got some areas that got compressed over time, and it's hard to refluff, so we'll refluff some of it, but we'll also add a little on top. And then he had some other that was missing in the attic and this and that we're going to fill that back up and get that right. You don't have to get a full attic insulation, but, or let me put it this way, it's not always a full attic job. Now, there are minimums, because to even come out and do some of this stuff, there are minimum charges, and they're a little more expensive than a minimum on a roof. But when it comes to overall, it's not as expensive as I thought. And I say that on my end. I went into it little blind, deaf, and dumb earlier over the last couple of years, and now we got into it this year. But I'm trying to say, I went into it thinking it was going to be, I'm like, it's going to be expensive. It's hard enough, telling people the roof's $18,000 now to come in and go, it's going to be $20,000 for your insulation. And it's the average home, nowhere close. Matter of fact, what I call average, your 2,000 square feet, 2,500 square feet, somewhere like in that. Some top offs that we've done have been under 10,000. Well more than $1 lower than that, put it that way. But it all varies too. So dabbled in that. But now getting back to the value, well, once you've upgraded your insulation, you don't want water dripping on it. So that's what the roof does. That's the value of the roof, not the price. Price is what it is, like a gallon of milk. Price is what it is. Gas. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, that was like, that's expensive. I'm like, well, have you been to the store lately? Have you gotten gas? It was down for a minute. Now, I was getting it this weekend. It was $3.99. So, and that all depends on where you're at too. But my point is a week ago, it was $3.64. And it's still the same gas in there. Come on, guys. I don't know. That's the way I see it. I may be wrong. Not my business, but it is my business when I go hit the pump. So I guess what I'm getting back to is the value is, yes, things cost money, but what are their value, and does that cost represent that value to you? Well, to me, if it's going to reduce the strain of your heating and cooling system because you've got a good roof that's got good insulation, that's the big value. That's a really big value, actually. And another big one, like I was saying earlier, one of the ones was, protects the value of your property. Well, that's your investment. It's the investment. It's one of your investments that appreciates and doesn't depreciate. I don't look at cars as an investment. Some people might. I guess if you're buying classics, and there's some ones that do appreciate. But the average car people drive back and forth to work is an appreciating asset. It depreciates. Every mile you put on it, it's losing value. So, if I'm putting and for most of us, if I can get this out right, I'm trying to think it through. For most of us, we put a lot more money into our home than we do our car overall. I didn't spend 6 digits on a vehicle. Although nowadays it's getting pretty daggum close again. What's the value? But to me, that's a sidebar project, because to me, a car is a hammer. I don't go buy a hammer and then use the hammer and then resell the hammer expecting to make money off of it. I buy the hammer, use the hammer, write off the hammer, and when it breaks, buy a new hammer because it made me money. It's a tool. For me, that's a car. A car is a tool. And sometimes you don't have to have that tool. But a roof and a home, yes, you got to have one. Unless you want to, you can build your own out in the middle of the woods. But again, the value of your roof is that it also works 24 hours a day, 365 days a year and a quarter, days a year. while you eat, sleep, drink, go away, go on vacation, come back, it's still there. That's the importance of getting inspected, because it's always working. It never gets a day off, night off. It's running both shifts. If this has caught your attention a little bit, now that you see more value in your roof than just what the cost is going to be, or could be, not going to be, could be, will be one day. And if it's anything like the last 3 or 4 years, it's going to be more expensive tomorrow than it is today. And I've even got a little caveat. If anybody calls today or goes online, which I'll give that right here in a second, and fills out for an inspection, the first 3 I will come out to. You get the first 3, you get me. Hey, look at that. I just made up something. The first 3, you get me today. But no, seriously. I mean, I go out on calls, but I'm the one here preaching this. I'll come out and look at your roof. The first 3. By calling 615-500-0751, 500-0751, or go to rtmroofing.com. That's where you can scroll to the bottom of the page, of the home page, and fill out the contact card. The first 3 today, get me. First 3, get me. For all your roofing, siding, soffit, fascia, gutters, chimney caps, skylights, and home attic insulation needs. Yeah, I'll come out. First 3. If you call today, now you're going to have to leave a message because no one's going to be answering the phones today. So it's easier just to go online. And it's actually quicker anyhow to go online than to call and sit there and, whoever you may pick up, whoever may be on the phones that day, and sit and talk. That just go ahead and fill it out through the information. You will get a response. It'll be Monday, but the first 3 get me. Not that my guys aren't good. It's just, hey, I'm the one up here from the cheap seats, spitting it out. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Yeah. Well, you're listening to Renovation Nation live on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's a Saturday. It's a good day. Enjoy it. Enjoy your roof when you're sitting under it. We'll see you in 3. And you know what time it is. And you're back. Back live on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Renovation Nation time. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Always here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chad Rowland, host of this crazy show. Talking roof value today. Not the cost, but the value. And we've done a lot of talking about the roof value. It's a pretty important piece of most likely your biggest investment. I'd like to do some numbers on that sometime, and I don't know I'm sure you can find them somewhere. Someone's done them somehow. But I'd like to know what the average American's biggest investment is, and my gut tells me it's your home, it's your property. My second guess would be, your 401k, or some other investment. Maybe, there's a million different types of things to do, but the overall, I would say average, it's your home. And you can't get a mortgage without a roof. You can't. That's what I've been told. Unless somebody's lying to me, because it's just 4 walls. It's not even a building without a roof. But now that you've got the roof settled, you're good with the roof, you got it inspected, everything's good, maybe it had damage, maybe it gets bought by the insurance, maybe you have to pay out of pocket, maybe you need a complete replacement, maybe you got 5 to 10 more years. But either way, it's coming. Not saying you got to jump the gun ahead of the thing, ahead of the game, so to speak, but at the same point in time, gather a little knowledge so when it does come, you know what's going on. Because a lot of industries out here, the roofing industry is not immune to it either. There's some Wild West sometimes out here. And in, some trades a little wilder than others. But there's a lot to choose from when it comes to from roofing. There's a lot of companies out here now. I mean, there's always been a lot of companies, but there is a tremendous amount. Either that or my algorithms are just, which they do. You know how the phone does you. But I mean, there's roofing all over mine, and it used to not be. But a lot of these companies are in Nashville now that used to not be. And some pop up, some come in, some got bought, some da-da-da, and that's fine. Hey, that's America. That's America. I love capitalism. But that's hard when most people have never replaced a roof. What I've come to find out, most of the people, when we replace a roof on a home, it's their first time. Whether it's an insurance claim, whether it's just a dead roof, whether they thought they needed one, it doesn't matter. It's the first time they'd been through that experience, and I've had people be in their 60s and never had changed the roof. They either moved, because the roof lasts. It does. Your initial gut telling you, yeah, that roof's going to last you a long time. Yeah. It's a 50-year roof. I mean, there are 50-year roofs. But you got to watch the marketing sometimes. From my cheap seats, doing what I've done for the last, it's been longer than 10 years I've been doing on this side of it, that a good architectural shingle well, by their definition, should get 30 years on average. Some will say you get up to 50 with a warranty and all that good stuff, but that's, again, whatever. I see, usually by the time a roof is 15 years old to about 20 is when they're getting, the granules are gone, or it all depends on the shingle you've got too. There's certain brands and certain styles and certain things that last longer than others. And sometimes it's poor ventilation on your home. You didn't know it. It wasn't properly ventilated. That'll kill your roof quicker than anything. The roof's got to breathe. And the big misnomer of the roof in the attic is that, the more holes you put in your roof to vent the hot air out, the cooler it's going to be. And that's a misnomer too. Sounds good in theory, but in logic, but it's not. It's not the same. All you're going to do is move hot air faster because it's going to get a certain temperature in there, an ambient temperature during the day, no matter how many vents you got on it. And it's not a good idea to mix ventilation. It goes against the manufacturer's installation. You're only allowed one type of ventilation unless you got a firewall. And what do I mean by that? That means there's ridge vents, there's box vents, there's powered vents, whirlybirds, turbines they call them, but whirlybirds, everybody calls them whirlybirds, that you typically don't want a whirlybird in a ridge vent, or a box vent in a ridge vent, or a power vent in a ridge vent, or any combination thereof. Because what ends up happening is if you've got a powered vent and you've got a ridge vent, that power vent is going to start pulling. Where do you think it's going to pull the air from quicker? The bottom of the eave that's, 10, 15, 20 foot down on that angle, where your gutter's at? Or is it going to pull it from about 2 foot above its head where that ridge vent's at? And then it's a loop. It short circuits the system. It's like sticking a straw in a drink and poking a hole, above the liquid in the straw. Then draw. You're going to get some, but it's going to be off because there's air coming in. Well, in this case, all you're doing is drawing air in from the ridge vent, taking it through the power vent, blowing it back out, and then sucking it right back in. So it's a loop. And what does that cause? We go, well, it's moving air. Well, yeah, but nothing's coming up from your eaves to cool the roof deck. That's what ventilation is for in the 2000s and the latter half of last century. But because the homes used to be built when there weren't air conditioners. So they were built to have airflow through the home. And a lot of that comes from the attic. And so things were designed in ways to flow air through the home. They're no longer built that way. Now, they might tell you they are, and maybe they are to an extent. But now if there's air conditioning, it doesn't matter how air blows through your home. That's what insulation's for, to keep the air in and keep the heat out, or the cold out, depending on the time of year. So, yeah, it's a complicated thing that's very simple when you look at it from that angle. because I always looked at it from the angle that a lot of you listening to do and are right now, until maybe I've said something you just went, I never thought of it that way, because it's true. The ventilation for your roofing system is for your roofing system. Now, it's also to keep, to let the air get out of your attic, but at the same point in time, if it gets 135, if it's going to get 130, all right, let me rewind. If you're properly ventilated, whether it's ridge vents, box vents, powered vents, doesn't matter, gable ends, whatever. If you're properly ventilated, then hot air or cold air in the winter should not get into the room below it if you're properly insulated. Now, there's magic numbers there, but that's the deal. Now, when you're properly ventilated and your insulation has went down, meaning from an R38 to an R20, you're still going to keep more hot air out than not, but some will bleed through. But if you're not properly ventilated and your insulation is now an R20 or an R15, and you should be an R38, that's codes. That's what they use as their spec. They're nominal. If you're that, then everything else should work like designed. When you don't have proper ventilation, two things are happening. Your attic's getting hotter, which is now pushing towards the colder, which is in your home at this point in time, and burning your shingles up. It's asphalt. Shingles are asphalt. Granules sit on top of that asphalt to protect the asphalt from the sun and give it some color. That's my definition. But I think that's pretty much the theory of what they are. But at the same point in time, when you remove the granules, how do you remove the granules off a shingle? Why do you go out and down below your downspout of your gutter, there's a ton of granules after a big rain? Number one, shingles will shed granules naturally, just like we all lose a little bit of hair naturally. But when they get hot, you get what's called blistering. And any of you that's been through some insurance claims where someone told you had hail, but it wasn't, it was blistering, and they didn't cover it, that's because either something was wrong with the shingle, manufacturer style, from something didn't work right, too thin, too thick, too whatever, and they just start coming off, or you start getting blistering, which is like a blister. It's exactly like what you're thinking, like a blister you get a blister, right? You burn yourself, you got a blood, or you pinch yourself, you got a blood blister right there. Well, what happens when it pops? Well, with a blister on your hand, it's going to leak out. But your roof, it blisters, that asphalt blisters up, and then just naturally it can pop, or usually small hail will knock them off, heavy rains. And when that asphalt's blistering up like a blister, the granules are sitting on top of it. So that little chunk of granules just, there they go. They're gone. It pops. And that's not as dramatic as I'm putting out to be, but you can have tens of thousands of those going on your roof because it's getting too hot. Because your ventilation is meant to cool the roof deck, meant to cool the shingle, to give it extra life, to give it the life it needs, which is back to, as I was mentioning earlier, Jamie Oldham will tell you 25 years. I'll tell you 15 to 20 is what I see on average. Can you get 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 35 years? 35 we're getting there. Certain shingles we definitely can. But you can get more life out of your roof by getting it inspected and catching it early and all that good stuff, and get the value out of it that you had to pay and that you receive. Something like that. I squirreled a little bit on that one, but we're still here. We're coming back. You're listening to Renovation Nation. We'll see you in 3.
Hey, this is Chad Rowland with RTM Roofing. Are you the type of person that takes pride in your home? Let RTM Roofing help with the exterior, with your roof, with your siding, with your soffit, fascia, your gutters, your chimney caps. Home insulation now too. Call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751 or go to rtmroofing.com, scroll to the bottom and fill out the contact card. Let RTM Roofing help you get ready for summer.
And you know you're back. Back live on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know what time it is. It's Renovation Nation time. Dun, dun. Bum, bum. Another Saturday. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just sort of hanging out. With you guys today. Hope you're having a great Saturday. I got to do a bunch of work after this if I don't get rained out. I gotta do some on the mowing side. Actually, it's funny. I actually enjoy mowing now more than I did growing up. It's the one time I've got one job, Carl, as they say. You just got one job, mow. I can't answer the phones, can't deal with anything. All I gotta do is mow straight lines. And for some reason, I guess I'm getting old because that's peaceful to me anymore. But nevertheless, as hot as it's been, it's still rough. But anyhow, you're listening to Renovation Nation. I'm Chad Rowland, host of this crazy show, coming at you from Super Talk 99.7 WTN, talking, well, as I said earlier, water. A lot of water we had this week. We've been having last month. But this last Tuesday evening, we had a blast. We had a big blast. If you got some water in, or you don't know if you got any water in, you don't know if your roof's still doing right. There were some winds that come through that too. We've had one that ripped off shingles off to the ridge line and some other things, but nevertheless, I say nevertheless a million times. However, if you're in that zone, if you were part of that big storm the other night, it's a good idea to get everything checked. A lot of debris came down, clogged your gutters, things like that. Call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751, 500-0751, or go to rtmroofing.com for all your roofing, siding, your soffit, your fascia, your gutters, your chimney caps, blown-in attic insulation needs. Yeah, I'd be getting it inspected. Because we had one this week that some bunch of debris clogged up in a scupper, and then here's another thing that happened. Here's something else to think of, because I want to get on some gutters. Gutters, have a specific volume they can handle. There's 5-inch gutters, there's 6-inch gutters. That's the majority that's on your homes. Most of you have 6-inch now, but if you're a little older, you've probably got 5 inches. Now, they may work great. For, last 10 years, everything's worked great. And the other night, when we get 1 to 3 inches per hour, or whatever the final total was, that was how it was coming down, it can get overrun. And there's one that we've had to deal with that was a big internal gutter that, look, when it fills up, it will backflow. And you got to remember, that's attaching, well, in this case, it was the side of the building, but in most cases, attached to your gutters attached to your fascia. Then there's your soffit. And then, about a foot, 16 inches from the outside of back of your gutters where your walls start. Well, that water has got 3 directions to go out of your gutter. Number 1, where it should go, down the downspout and out. Number 2, overflow. Come over the top, out front. And number 3, roll backwards. Roll into your soffit, then roll down your wall. And usually when you see stains right where your wall hits your ceiling, right there within a 6-8 inches a foot, give or take, and all that good stuff, and it can go farther. It'll roll to wherever just because it's leaking right there, it doesn't always stain right there. But 9 out of 10 times when I go out to a job or do an inspection and there's water, like where I'm looking in my office right now, I've got a spot that I got to fix my roof. I've talked about that, but I digress. My point is that I'm looking at the gutter first. I'm gonna look at the roof, And if the shingles are there, everything's sitting there looking great, well, where'd the water come from? Now, if you've got a dormer or a second story that goes down and hits a roof and the roof comes out from that, that's a different story. That's a different story. It could be coming up, from a window, from the walls, flashing detail. There's a lot of places water can technically always enter your home, but your home's designed, and if built properly, like it should be, wick right on out. Shingles, they have rain channels. They're called rain channels for a reason. Shingles aren't, you think when the shingle lays down, when it seals, it's just a solid seal. It's not. It's sort of like Morse code. It's like dashed of sealant. So if water gets behind that shingle somehow, it can go between the shingle on the bottom and the shingle up top that it got under. I'm actually doing my hands. If we're in the studio right now, you'd see me. I'm sitting there doing like it doesn't matter. Oh, I'm acting like somebody's in front of me. But that's my point, though, is water is very tricky. It will do things that you don't think are possible. You've been told it's not possible. Water will travel uphill. Yes, it will. I've seen it. There's different methods it does it, but it does it. Water can come in from, if you go outside and look at your house, look at the far left corner, then look at the bottom right corner of that slope or your house. Well, not really. If it's cut up, it's different. But I'm saying in normal theory, like a sheet of paper laying there, go from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, and that's 30 feet. I've seen water do that. Now, it's a downward motion, but it went to the right. Like the game Plinko. You draw Plinko and you're trying to hit that center, big money out there in the center, but it ends up in the far corner. Water does the exact same thing. And it's tricky. But there's only so many ways water can get into your home. And it's not always the roof. And it's not always the gutters. It's not always the windows. It's not always the brick. It's not always the siding. But sometimes it is. And sometimes it's combinations thereof, all of them combined. I mean, that's why I call them usual suspects. I go out there, look for a leak on the roof, and let's say the stains in their bathroom. Well, number one, I'm thinking pipe boots. That neoprene boot around that pipe up on your roof breaks down. It's like tires on your car. Change them every 50 to 100,000 miles. You change them. You change your pipe boots every 5 to 10 to 15 years. I've seen them go 12 years. I've never seen 15, but not saying it can't. For the neoprene, for the average pipe boot. Now, if it's lead pipe boot, different story. That's what we install on all of our new roofing. But when we're coming out to change your pipe boots, we do use neoprene because you're not going to get another 30 years out of that roof. If you do, it'll be a miracle. But it's going to at least get you another 10, which is about where most people are anyways. If the boots died in 10 years, well, 10 more years puts you at 20 on that roof. And earlier I said 15 to 20 on the average is what we see out here, except for certain roofs. Certain roofs that's properly ventilated and been maintained. Hey, you're still young. You still got 5 to 10 more years. I always say 5 because it's hard enough seeing what's going to go down tomorrow, more or less next year, more or less 5 years from now. I mean, look at 2015 to 2020 and look at now to 2030. Who knows what's coming? I've got a good idea, but that's a different story. That's another thing. Here's another thing. If you're retiring anytime soon, you plan to retire next year, get your home in order. Because if you're retiring, I mean, I'm 54, but if I was retiring this year, technically I've got, 20 to 30 years maybe. Maybe if I live to 90, I don't know. But my point is, on average, another 20, 25, 30 years. That's a roof. Don't have to worry about your roof in the golden years, as they call it. Get it looked at. Get it up to speed. Be ready for it, because it will be more expensive next year, number one. And number two, why have to deal with your roof when you want to go and kick back and do whatever it is that you've wanted to do? Yeah, it's things like that, I don't know. It's just things I wish people had told me in the past. I was just too hard-headed to listen, but it's things like this that I want to know. And I've got to learn it the hard way, well, from myself to start with. And number two, seeing the examples I see when we go out, just because people didn't have an idea. They had an idea. It was the wrong idea. It's what we've all been taught sometimes. Yeah. Get your AC inspected yearly, but don't get your roof. They didn't say don't, but most people don't. Yeah, I guess it's America. It's still a free country, I think. But anyway, hope everybody's had a great Saturday. Go to www.rtmroofing.com, the first three. See me this week. Yeah. Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching Renovation Nation. Hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and share button.